right, thanks, Sam. We will call this meeting to order again from our recess. Corey, did you want to share?
So whenever the county does a closed-door meeting, all meetings of the county and the state are open to the public, because the public has a constitutional right to know what, observe the government, participate, know what documents we have, all that stuff. The times when a meeting would be closed, and this is in the Constitution and the statute, is with the rights of it. If an individual's right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know. Usually we're talking about, issues, in this context, we're talking about just personal employee issues. Or as this case would be a non-employee issue. So when we do that, then what we need to do is tell the public the topics we discussed. So that's what I'm gonna do now. The first topic, we discussed two topics. First topic we discussed was this potential person who is interested in providing some kind of interim coverage for the WIC office in the county public health department. This person is not an applicant at this point. It's not clear if, I believe it's a woman, it's not clear if she will be an applicant. Because of that, we didn't feel it was appropriate to share her name and everything. So what I've advised the commission to do is, number one, first they need to decide how they're gonna recommend that they provide public health coverage on a going forward basis. And if one of those options includes this person's skill set, then they need to basically say, okay, then you need to apply. At that point, the application process, and the decision, let's say they vote either to bring the person in or to not bring the person in. That needs to be a public vote at a hearing where the people can observe. At that point, everyone will know who this person is. We're not there yet. We don't know that she's gonna apply, and we don't know that she's gonna kind of enter into this process. So until we know that, we felt let's just keep her name quiet for the time being. She also has to tell her employer and her family and all that stuff. And nobody wants to hear about that in the grocery store when they never heard about it first from the person. So if they move forward on that, I've recommended they do it soon, like Monday, and then that process and that name will be public, and then their vote and their decision needs to be public, one way or the other. That was topic one. Topic two was an issue that was raised on Monday regarding you, Misty, and that was, you had said, I want to know all the information about my process and why I wasn't informed. And Laura had said, well, that needs to happen privately. And you said, no, I'll do it right here in public. Let's waive it. And what I had advised, and I told them the same thing, is number one, we need to meet with Misty and tell her, tell her the answers to the questions that she's asking, and let her know what the issues are before you make a decision to just waive your right to privacy and do it all publicly. And if you want to, then that's great. But first, you need to be told, I think, personally, so that you're not blindsided, particularly if it's something that some allegation is completely false and you're blindsided in public. Does that make sense? So that was the second thing we talked about, and I said, let's find a time when we can do that, whether it's in person or preferably in person or on the phone or whatever. So what I don't know is schedules, because tomorrow's Christmas Eve. You're going to be gone fairly soon on a vacation, I understand, and that's out of at least the area, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. So that would be the question: is there a time when we could meet and do that? And at that point, if you say no, this is good for public consumption, then they can schedule a meeting to do it publicly. Mm-hmm. So would you be willing to maybe stick around and we can try and figure out a scheduled time to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So those are the two topics we talked about, and there you have it. So do you want to do anything further as far as how we're covering stuff?
I'd like to request again that we revisit the A to Z staffing solutions option and ask them to immediately start looking for an RN for us, or an RN who's WIC certified.
After a bunch of discussion and things I've learned here, I'll second that motion.
All right,
I'm not going to make the statement of why I changed at this point, but
it's been moved and seconded to go ahead and pursue A to Z Staffing Solutions option 1, which is a temporary placement All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye?
Can you just explain what option one is then?
Yes, thank you. There's two different options here. Option one is temporary to permanent as an option. So if we hired somebody, it could either be temporary, or if they really worked out great, we have the option of making them permanent. Of course, that would have to follow a process. Option two is just a direct placement. I don't think we're there yet, and that's why I suggest option one, and it's part of the application paperwork we have to specify. So that's what that is. So that will get done today, and we will make this as smooth as possible for the citizens. So I think that's all the business we had.
Can I just,
Yes.
one of the things I raised in the discussion, and I think they want to know, is we just kind of bring this out. At this point, the commission is not planning on asking Misty or Clara to cancel their vacation for next week. Is that accurate?
Yes.
That is
Okay,
accurate,
so-
yes.
And that was a factor I was worried about.
Us too, we didn't want to do that, so.
So do we have a county nurse after today?
We are gonna work on that, I hope so. Yep,
Well, I hope so, don't do any good,
well, we'll see.
At this point, no.
because they're gone.
Yeah,
Well, I will say this, that resignation was for January 1st, so we technically do their January vacation. So we do have that covered in that way. It's more of a technicality, I think, since the girls be gone on vacation. But with that, any other public comment before we adjourn?
was we going to talk with Misty any more of this now, if she wants to close?
Just
the-
afterwards, if we want to just figure out if there's a scheduled time we can make work. So, but we need to, that has to be subject to making sure we can get Elaine her schedule as well. So, I don't know, we'll know that right away. We may have to make some calls and figure out when people can do it.
So it might not be today then.
Well, it might be today if,
I can call Elaine and ask her how she's feeling.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So for this meeting, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Yes, Joan?
The horses we've got,
I-
we're paying for, can you get rid of them?
I don't know. The county, you know what, I'm gonna rescind our recess. We're back, or our adjournment. Corey, do you have anything to add for?
we have gotten rid of a lot of them. We had 3 different categories of horses. We had horses owned by one defendant, Mr. Jasperger. We had horses owned by Haley Rindle, the other defendant. We had horses owned by their corporation, Rocky Acres, which was, so what we did is, we have, Jasperger has signed over his horses to the county, and we dissolved the Rocky Acres Corporation, had to do it in court, and the judge appointed a receiver committee. And all those horses, we are adopting them out or trying to adopt them out. We've adopted out, I'll get the number, we've adopted a bunch of them that are out. We have some we just haven't been able to get rid of. And what happens with these horse sanctuaries, there's 2 horse sanctuaries in Montana that take horses, and you gotta do it, if you do it late in the summer or in the early fall, they're usually full. And nobody wants to really take horses at the beginning of the winter, because then you have to feed them all winter. So we are planning on the horses that we can adopt out in the spring, that we're gonna send them to these horse sanctuaries, and then there are these, apparently, I didn't realize this, there are these very large pastures in Texas and other places where they really take horses out to pasture, and they take them out there to die naturally. So our plan is, when we get down to that group of horses that we can't adopt out, that we're gonna move them. There are still some horses, there's 8 of them, that are owned by Aileen Rindle, who is the other defendant in the case. And she is not pled in this case. We are still moving forward, and I think the trial is set for April right now. So if we don't get something worked out before then we have to get through trial before we can do anything with those horses.
What about the other animals that they had out there too? They had babies and all that stuff too. What happened to all those?
So the goats, they signed over the goats right away. The goats were adopted out, and they've been gone. We haven't paid hardly anything on the goats. There was one colt that was born after the fact, and that was from a mare that was owned by Rindle, so she owns the colt. So that's number 8 in this bunch of horses. There was there was one horse that was put down because he was in such bad shape. There was a horse that was found that was already dead and buried. And then there's a miniature mule that's included in the Rocky Acre. I think he's a Rocky Acre animal. He might be Rendell's. I think he's a Rocky Acre horse, or mule, miniature. And he is still in the haven't got him adopted out category.
So, in other words, we're paying somebody to feed them every day.
We're still paying to feed them, yeah, we're still boarding them, it's still costing us money. We did get, we get a restitution order against Jessberger, and then if we win the case against Rendell, we'll get a restitution order against her. We're not gonna ever get all the money back. And there's a few other counties that have done this, whether it was horses or there's actually two that I know of, one in Jefferson County, one in Toole County, where it was dogs. So the people had bunches and bunches of dogs. And, I mean, in Toole County, it was Border Collie, which are expensive dogs, and they had something like 150 of them that were all starved. And that county, and I was pretty young when that happened, we lived there, and that county spent a lot of money on those dogs and adopted out a lot of them, and they never got their money back. So one thing I would like to do is, as we get closer to resolution on this, is see if there is another fundraising program of some kind. We've gotten some donations in from some national groups, but it hasn't been very much, so. It's a tough deal.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Any, they could be sent down to if they're going down to Texas, winter should make any difference, could start getting rid of them down that way now?
But what happens is the places like Montana ship a lot of them down there in the fall, when winter matters to us. So they ship them down there in early fall here, and then, they kind of aren't gonna take more in Texas until the spring or the summer. So that's the issue, it's just, I just think it's amazing that is it's a problem we have in the U.S. A lot of people get horses, they don't know how to take care of them, and they become surplus, so.
All right.
Now, if anyone wants to adopt a horse,
Why do you think we're not doing it? We're responsible.
So with that last thought, we will go ahead and adjourn. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
all right.
No, I didn't really want to see the county stuck with 3 more horses. But who's getting, are those people just squatting or
No, they're right
paying
now.
rent on that
Yeah.
or?
Okay, right.